The air crackled with anticipation. Denver, a mile above sea level, buzzed with nervous energy. Game 7, Nuggets versus Timberwolves. A trip to the conference finals on the line. The Pepsi Center, a fortress all season, was a cacophony of sound and color. Gold and blue jerseys filled the stands, a sea of humanity united in their hope for a Nuggets victory. The Timberwolves, young and hungry, walked into the Lions' den with quiet confidence. They had stolen 2 games in Minnesota, wrestled home court advantage away from the Nuggets. They knew they could win. Anthony Edwards, the young star, his eyes burning with competitive fire, led the pack. He exuded a calm confidence that belied his youth, a swagger that infected his teammates. The Nuggets, led by the Joker, Nikola Jokic, were a force to be reckoned with. 2-time MVP, a maestro of the game, Jokic was a walking triple-double threat. The Nuggets had cruised through the regular season, securing the top seed in the Western Conference. They were the favorites, the experienced veterans. But the Timberwolves smelled blood. As the lights dimmed and the spotlight shone on the court, the roar of the crowd reached a fever pitch. The stage was set for a battle, a clash of titans, a game for the ages. The opening whistle blew, and the battle for the Western Conference Finals began. The first half was a back-and-forth affair, a heavyweight bout. Jokic, a magician with the ball, orchestrated the Nuggets' offense. He found cutters, drained threes, and bullied his way to the basket. But Anthony Edwards answered the call. He was unstoppable, a blur of speed and power. He attacked the rim relentlessly, his athleticism on full display. Edwards drained threes, finished through contact, and soared for thunderous dunks. He was a one-man wrecking crew, carrying the Timberwolves on his back. The Nuggets, despite Jokic's brilliance, seemed rattled. Their shots weren't falling, their defense was porous, and frustration crept into their game. The third quarter was Edwards' masterpiece. He was unconscious, scoring at will, his confidence bordering on arrogance. He hit contested jumpers, danced through the lane for layups, and drew fouls with his relentless attacks. The Timberwolves, feeding off their leader's energy, surged ahead. The Nuggets, once in control, were now reeling. The crowd, sensing the shift in momentum, grew quiet, their cheers replaced by a nervous hum. Anthony Edwards was not just playing basketball, he was making a statement. This was his coming-out party, his announcement to the world that he was a superstar. He wasn't just matching Jokic, he was surpassing him. He played with a joy, a freedom that was infectious. His teammates, energized by his performance, raised their level of play. Edwards' talent was undeniable, but it was his swagger, his belief in himself that set him apart. He didn't shy away from the moment, he embraced it. He wanted the ball in his hands, he wanted to take the big shots, and he delivered time and time again. He was a leader, a beacon of hope for a franchise starved for success. The Nuggets, despite Jokic's valiant efforts, couldn't keep up. Edwards was a force of nature, unstoppable and unpredictable. He was the difference maker, the catalyst for the Timberwolves' surge. He was the future of the franchise, and the future was bright. The fourth quarter was a coronation. The Timberwolves, led by Edwards, never looked back. They played with a ferocity, a hunger that the Nuggets couldn't match. The Nuggets, their offense sputtering, their defense in shambles, seemed resigned to their fate. The crowd, once deafening, was now silenced, their hopes dashed against the rocks of Edwards' brilliance. The Timberwolves bench, a sea of excitement, cheered every basket, every stop, every loose ball. The momentum had completely shifted, and the Timberwolves rode that wave to victory. The final buzzer sounded, and the Timberwolves erupted in celebration. They had slayed the dragon, conquered the Western Conference's top seed, and punched their ticket to the conference finals. The Nuggets, heads bowed, walked off the court, their season over. Jokic, despite a monstrous performance, was left to rue what could have been. He had met his match in Anthony Edwards, and on this night the young star had shone brighter. This was more than just a game, it was a moment of transformation for the Minnesota Timberwolves. For years they had been mired in mediocrity, a franchise perpetually on the cusp of greatness but never quite reaching it. This victory, this improbable run to the conference finals, signaled a new era. The Timberwolves had finally found their identity, their leader, their star. Anthony Edwards, in one night, had cemented his place in franchise lore. He had become the face of the franchise, the player who would lead them to the promised land. The curse of mediocrity had been lifted, replaced by a sense of hope, a belief that anything was possible. This was Minnesota's moment, a moment to savor, a moment to celebrate. The Timberwolves, once the underdogs, were now the darlings of the NBA world. They had captured the imagination of fans, showcasing a brand of basketball that was both exciting and inspiring. The road ahead would be challenging, but the Timberwolves had found their footing. They had a young, talented core, led by a superstar in the making. They had a coach who believed in them, a system that maximized their strengths. They had a fan base that was starving for success, ready to embrace their new heroes. The Timberwolves were no longer the laughingstock of the league, they were a force to be reckoned with. They had tasted victory, and they were hungry for more. The future, once uncertain, now shimmered with possibility. The pack was on the hunt, and they wouldn't be satisfied until they reached the mountaintop. The Game 7 victory over the Nuggets was just the beginning. It was the start of a new era, an era of Timberwolves dominance. The NBA had been put on notice, the pack had arrived, and they were here to stay.